The Roots of Reconciliation project was a collaborative approach for the entire staff. It was generated by Ran Charlie initially as a vision and was implemented by a large group of people. It organized our entire staff, our QP, the teachers, students, through a variety of activities, culminating in an artistic installation, and involved a variety of historical pieces and cultural pieces all around the question of residential schools and First Nations culture.
My name is Will Fadam. I'm the chief of the Lake Babine First Nations. To me, when people are reconciling, they're reconciling an issue that needs attention, so that both parties have a better understanding of the areas that they want to help each other with. So I think that's what the high school and the community were attempting to do, and I think they were successful at it.
My personal involvement with the Roots of Reconciliation started when we went to get the tree. So the tree was going to act physically as the pedestal for the eagle. The role of ceremony was very, very important right away. Robert Charlie and Ran Charlie started with a pipe ceremony, kind of blessing our journey. There were 5 or 6 teachers involved in that as we crossed Francois Lake. And then when we arrived at Utsa Lake, and Utsa Lake, of course, had a historical significance because in 1952, Alcan had flooded the traditional territory of the Cheslada. And so that had a very powerful social and cultural resonance for our area. Utsa had been flooded, and so we have a lot of preserved trees that are kind of driftwood trees. And anyway, we were searching for something we didn't really know what we were going to find, and then it kind of spoke to us. We found this beautiful, enormous, approximately 18-foot tree trunk that looked to me impossible to get out of the lake, but yet, I don't know, I think the spirits helped us, and we got it up onto a tiny little trailer. And then we thanked the spirits in Utsa, and just for me, that was a really powerful introduction, and it was a powerful introduction because I think I saw authentic ceremony in a way that wasn't in a gym or wasn't in some sort of political gathering. It was outside with a pipe and with people who were gathered in a communal activity. So that was the start for me. Yeah, the invitation to the Sweat Lodge was both enlightening and terrifying for me personally. I had a few demons of my own to exercise because I do not do well in closed places, but I really felt that this was an important ceremony and quite a privilege that was opened up to us. So I decided I would give it a shot and see. My memory of that, well, I have many memories, but one was when the tiny last vestige of light was extinguished in the Sweat Lodge, and I realized there is absolutely no way to get around this claustrophobia. And yet, ceremony helped me here as well, because the chanting and the powerful spiritual community that I got to witness and participate was a first for me. So I got again to experience that authentic ceremonial role and the power that you can get through somebody who's highly claustrophobic through this experience, and see a window into how some people spend every Sunday. And I was I guess overwhelmed in places, and people had genuine burdens to give out. And again, I really felt that this was a wonderful ceremony that I had absolutely no idea about, even though I lived in this community for a long time. I think that bringing in the teaching community and the support workers in our school into this was really a necessary first step, because ultimately we're the adults in the building, and I think we quickly realized that virtually all of us needed to get up to speed in this important area. If we were going to succeed with this project with students, I think we had to instill some change in us first.
How do you feel with the high school's approach? Do you feel they're on the right track in dealing with this very difficult and emotional issue of residential schools? Are we doing the right things?
Not just only residential school. I think when two opposing societies, like the First Nations and the non-First Nation community, when there's a lot of issues on it that was not resolved for many years, and it's not because of residential school, it's just the society in general that we never got along. And in fact, that in Burns Lake, we had 2 riots back in the 70s. And I think any reconciliation, especially what the high school are doing and teaching the young kids for people to start getting along, I think it goes a long ways of making a reality of where people can fully understand how to live amongst each other.
So the Sweat Lodge was a really powerful, important beginning. And then we began with viewing We Are the Children, and then using Aboriginal pedagogy by sitting in a circle, passing the feather. And my memory of that was how many people interpreted what we saw, the powerful imagery, the powerful experience, and interpreted it on a personal level. This ranged from people who disclosed personal information from their childhood to people who had experienced residential schools firsthand and were in our building.
In the early 60s, the priest and the Indian agent came around picking up kids from the community to send them to Lejac. And my uncle at that time didn't want me to go to Lejac, so did my grandfather. So when they were picking up kids and they were coming close to me, my uncle told them that you're not taking him, and he brought his rifle. And we went by the boat. He ordered me in the boat and told them that he will use the rifle if they go after us. So my uncle and I went to a sign point and spent the night there. And the next day, my grandfather came around saying that it's good to go home, as they all left.
In my opinion, the ceremonial aspect offered an opportunity for people to discuss things that they simply don't do around a staff room or during a staff meeting. And it allowed for, I guess, all of us to experience this with new eyes. When Patrick Young came, it was an NI day, and so we were gathered around and expecting the usual event that occurs during a non-instructional day. We quickly learned that he had other plans and had decided to integrate, I guess again, integrate a First Nations Aboriginal approach to how he was going to deal with that day. It reminds me of the expression, it's one thing to talk the talk, but you've got to walk the walk. And so rather than lecture to us or use other techniques, he sat us in a circle, he told us stories, and he passed the feather. He began, of course, with a smudge, and all of these ceremonies lent credence because he didn't pay it lip service. He used it for the entire day, and I thought that was wonderful use of that expression. Wonderful walking the walk. We learned, but we learned at his pace. We learned through sharing of stories, and then we learned by sharing our own. And subtly, he got to some of the more important emotional aspects of residential school, but did it in an entirely new, refreshing way, and taught us how we can perhaps share some of these experiences with our students.